life, my father will say that I would have been a young communist, falling prey to the revolution's propaganda. According to him, I would have believed ice cream treats came from Fidel, and that those hairless Russians were our friends, and that my duty as a revolutionary was to turn him in for his counter-revolutionary activities. My mother will shake her head, but won't contradict him. She'll say the revolution uses people, and that I, too, would probably have been used, then betrayed. We came all the way from Cuba, so you could dress like this by Aki Obeja is me, because as a Mexican immigrant, I often wondered how differently my life would have been if I had not moved to the United States. I wonder, if we'd stayed, then who? If anyone, if not Martha and the boy from the military academy, would have been my blonde lovers, or any kind of lovers at all. In college one day, I'll tell my mother on the phone that I want to go back to Cuba to consider all these questions, and she'll pause and say, "What for?" "Over my dead body," my father will say, listening in on the other line. Years later, when I fly to Washington, D.C. and take a cab straight to the Cuban interest section to apply for a visa, a golden-skinned man will tell me that I need to renew my Cuban passport. I remember the passport among my mother's priceless papers, handwritten in blue ink, even the official parts. But when I ask my parents for it, my mother will say nothing, and my father will say, "It's not here, but in a bank box, where you'll never see it. Do you think I would let you betray us like that?" The boy from the military academy will say, "Oh, baby, baby," as he grinds his hips into me. And Martha and all the girls before and after her will say, "Oh, oh, oh," as my fingers explore inside them. But the first time I make love with a Cuban, she will say, "Ay, ay, ay," as she lifts me by my hair from between her legs. Strings of saliva like sea foam between my mouth and her shiny curls. Then our tongues will poke each other like wily porpoises. On one swift moment, she'll flip me on my back and kiss between my breasts and under my arms, and she'll suck my fingertips and the inside of my elbows. And when she rests her head on my belly, her ear listening to my heartbeat, to the fluttering of palm trees, she'll place one hand under my throat, the other on my sex, and kiss me there, under my rib cage. The next morning, I will wonder how this could have happened, and if it would have happened at all if we'd stayed in Cuba. Knowing now how cataclysmic life really is, I might hold on to her for a little while longer. When my father dies of a heart attack in 1990, I will feel sadness and a wish that certain things had been said, but I will not one more time with him. I will worry about my mother, just like all the relatives who predict that she will die of heartbreak within months. But she will instead outlive both him and me. My father's funeral will be simple but well attended. Closed casket at my request, but with the moments reserved for those who want a last look. My mother will stay in the room while the box is pried open, and tell me later she stared at the cross above the casket, never registering my father's talcum and perfumed body beneath it. "I couldn't leave. It wouldn't have looked right," she'll say, "but thank God I'm going blind." 3 days later, I'll be standing at the front gate with my bags, yelling at the cab driver that I'm coming, when my mother asks me to wait a minute, and she'll run back to the house, emerging minutes later with a box for me that won't fit in any of my bags. "A few things," she'll say, "a few things that belong to you that I've been meaning to give you for years, and now, well, they're yours." When I get home to Uptown, I'll forget all about my mother's box, until one day, many months later, when my memory's fuzzy enough to let me be curious. I'll break it open to find grade school report cards, family pictures of the 3 of us in Cuba, a love letter to her from my father, seroses of my birth certificate, copies of our request for political asylum, and my faded blue ink Cuban passport, expiration date, June 1965, all wrapped up in my old green sweater. When I call my mother, embarrassed about taking so long to unpack her box, overwhelmed by the treasures within it, Her answering machine will pick up and give out her beeper number in case of emergency. A week after my father's death, my mother will buy a computer with a Braille keyboard and a speaker, start learning how to use it at the community center down the block, and be busy investing in mutual funds. But this is all a long way off, of course. Right now, we're in a small hotel room with a kitchenette that U.S. taxpayers have provided for us. My mother, whose eyes are dark and sunken, sits at a little table eating. I'm in bed, under sheets that feel heavy with humidity and the smell of cleaning agents. The plastic doll the Catholic volunteer gave me sits on my pillow. Then my father reaches across the table to my mother and says, "We made it. We really made it." And they both start crying, quietly but heartily, holding and stroking each other as if they were all they have. And then there's a noise, a screech out in the alley, followed by what sounds like hyenas' laughter. My father leaps up and looks out the window, then starts laughing too. "Oh my God, come here, look at this," he beckons to my mother, who jumps up and goes to him, positioning herself right under the crook of his arm. "Can you believe that?" he says. "Only in America," echoes my mother. And as I lie here wondering about the spectacle outside the window in the new world that awaits us on this, and every night of the rest of our lives, even I know we've already come a long way. What none of us can measure yet is how much of the voyage is already behind us.